Hi, I'm Katie and this is episode 45 of Ornamentations, which I think is going to be a great episode, and I hope you're excited because I have been doing a lot of stitching. I have so much to share with you today. So what do I have to share with you today? I have a finish. I have progress on whips. I have a fabulous new start that is just turning out beautifully. I'm so excited to share it with you. We'll also be taking a look at my Brenda gasket. I have an update on that. And then I also have some hauls, so we'll have a mini chart break. And finally, at the end of the episode, I have giveaways. So there will be the giveaway winner from the previous episode, which is the winner of the Tulip Festival chart, and then 5 new and fabulous giveaways to celebrate reaching 5,000 subscribers on my channel, a milestone I reached since the last episode. Thank you all so much, whether this is your first time watching me or if you've been with me from the beginning. That's incredibly exciting and couldn't be here without you. Speaking of the channel, I was told after the last episode that there were ads inserted regularly in the Flosstube. I think I was told 6 in 40 minutes. That's insane. I'm incredibly sorry about that. I had no idea that was happening. I believe it has been corrected. If you're still seeing that, please drop a note in the comments and I can make sure I've got all the settings right, because absolutely not what I want. That's ridiculous. No one should have to sit through that. If I could give you a totally ad-free channel, I would. But I believe I have corrected that particular problem. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, and thank you all for your incredible patience in sitting through that. That's terrible. Really sorry about that. But let's talk about stitching, because that's way more interesting than channel ads. And let's start with my finish, which is the Christmas in July Flosstube kit. That's Brenda Gervais. Santa Stops Here, which is now fully finished. It's been embellished, blocked, and it's ready to be mounted for framing. I had actually hoped to have done that before today's episode. However, I really got into my stitching over the weekend and didn't want to stop it for the very fiddly job of mounting this thing and making sure that that border is perfectly straight. I can do it, or at least I hope I can do it, but it definitely does take your full time and attention, and it's a job that can't be rushed. So the house is newly embellished. I've done the satin stitching on the door. I've embellished the wreath. It's got its bow and its beads. I had hoped to use 2mm crystal pearls here, but they did end up being a little big, so I switched to seed beads instead, and those in the ribbon will be included in the kit so you can fully embellish. And then also, since I saw you last, I did do all of the filler. If you're familiar with the chart, you can see that I did simplify a little bit of this just to suit my own tastes, but I'm really pleased with how that came out. Oh, I absolutely love this. I cannot wait to see it framed, and I think the colors and the linen are just working together perfectly on this. Look at those cute little reindeer. I love them. So that's Santa Stops Here, now fully finished and headed off to the framers as soon as I go to the work of mounting that for framing. This is the conversion. Again, this will be the Christmas in July Flosstube kit. Beautiful. I absolutely love that stone house. So we'll see this again once it is back from framing, and then of course for the kit release in July. Then next, whips. So last time I showed you my start on Plum Street Samplers this happy morning. Spoiler alert, I'm still working on the grass. I have already blitzed through an entire spool of green goblins. But I do have actual progress to share. Still exclusively on greens. I haven't gotten to the reds at all, but that's progress. That is definitely more grass than was there last time. And I also, or rather my mother, had an innovation on this piece after she watched my Flosstube. She's seen me stitching on this, but I guess she hadn't looked at the photo of the chart that carefully, because after she watched my Flosstube, she told me how much she thought the barn looked like her family farm at Lindenwood. So I'm going to insert a photo here. This is a watercolor done by my great-grandmother, who was a painter, an amateur, not a professional, but her watercolors and paintings are spread throughout the family. And this is a painting, a watercolor that she did of the barn of the family farm at Lindenwood. So this belonged to my mother's maternal grandparents. Her paternal grandparents also had a farm in the same area. I come from a very long line of corn farmers on my mother's side, and she spent a lot of time there as a child and has a lot of happy memories of time spent there. So her idea, which I absolutely love, was to turn this happy morning into a family heritage sampler. So there will be a few tweaks here. As you know from the last episode, I had already decided to eliminate the verse and carry the trees and the grass all the way across, because I am a complete and utter sucker for punishment. But the changes I'll make to make this family heritage sampler will be a few. So first, I would like to make this a sister sampler to honor my matrilineal descent. I've kind of noticed that as a trend a little bit on Flosstube lately. You know, Carolyn of the Curious Crafters is stitching Jane Atkinson and turning it into a matrilineal family tree, and I've definitely heard the idea elsewhere, although I'm completely blanking on where. Please tell me, I'm sure you know. Just too obsessed with the grass to be able to summon names right now. Anyways, so I am going to eliminate the urn and the peacock. No peacocks on the family farm. Chickens, horses, cows, the usual. I think there were pigs too, but definitely no peacocks. So in place of that, I am going to put my grandmother and her sister and their dates of birth and the place Lindenwood, and make this a sister sampler honoring my grandmother and her sister. So I think that'll be really lovely. And then something a little more specific to the family farm at Lindenwood is I'm going to replace the deer, stag, reindeer here. Flower-eating maniac is what I'm going to replace, and I am going to turn that into a pony, because one of my mother's fondest memories of her time spent on the farm as a child is learning to ride on Tony the pony, who I believe was a Shetland kept by her grandfather, and apparently the most loved animal on the farm. So that's my mom there. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this to focus, but glare is making that pretty difficult. So that's my mom. She said, I think she said she's about 12 here, learning to ride Tony the pony on the family farm at Lindenwood with one of her cousins, and then that's her grandfather. He owned the place. So we're gonna put Tony the pony, and then make a few changes to make this, for me, a family heritage sampler. Now, I am thinking that this would make for a great Flosstube kit. I know a lot of you expressed interest in those fabulous screens. However, the conversion will be all-purpose and will include all the colors. So you would not have to stitch it as a family heritage sampler to my family farm. You could stitch it exactly as charted, but I think that'll make it really fun and meaningful. So I'm really looking forward to continuing with this happy morning. I want to get started on putting the reds in, so I think what I'm going to do is start putting in the structure of the barn. And then these are the threads that I am thinking of using. So that is this happy morning, and I hope to have some good progress to show you for the next episode. And then again, I am thinking of that for maybe like a late summer or a sampler September kit. So let me know if that sounds like a good idea, if you'd like to stitch it yourself. I know the greens have been really appealing, and I understand why they called to me too. And then also, speaking of my mother, new start. So my plan was actually just to go crazy with the grass. However, my mom showed me her chart pick from Market and asked for a silk conversion on it, and that is Stacy Nash Big Blue House Pinkeep drum. I had seen this in the Market releases. I actually bought her It's a Wonderful Life Pinkeep drum, and I thought that was pretty, but I didn't look too closely at it. It wasn't until I did that I realized what I was missing. So I did do a silk conversion, but I actually also started stitching it for myself, and I think that this is going to be the early summer Flosstube kit. More on that in a minute, because we had talked about doing my Home Sweet Home instead. That just got knocked out of the spot by Stacy Nash Big Blue House Pinkeep drum. So as you can see, I've made some good progress. This does really need the gray that's the mortar for the house to kind of bring the brown and the blue closer together. I have chosen more vibrant colors here, which I really think work, but it also means that it really does need that gray to marry everything together. And then as you can see, of course, there's no red here yet. I had started stitching some red, but I was really having trouble deciding what worked with so little done. It was one of the first things I started on the house, was the red door. So I frogged it, and I decided that looking at it in isolation was what was bothering me. So my current plan is to stitch everything else, the blue and white on the bunting, all the filler, and then to pick my red absolutely last. So you can also see I've made some changes here. I have eliminated most of the filler, and my plan is just to have flowers surrounding the house instead, and then maybe my initials or the year just above the chimneys and under the bunting. I do really love that element here. So it's patriotic, but it's also a little unexpected. It's very, I mean, red, white, and blue bunting is something that you see all the time at celebratory events, at inaugurations, at parades. So it gets the point across really clearly, but you see it less often on charts than, say, just the flag. So I like that it's subtle and just a little surprising. It also frames the drum really nicely. So from a design standpoint, that's just great. And oh, I love the colors on this. So this is Himalayan Fog. What a surprise, right? And I just think those beautiful, oh, the pink and the greens and the blue, that is a stunning set of colors. So this is the conversion as it stands. But it does still need two colors, so the gray and the red. I also did start the sides of the drum. So I had just started laying in the structure and the flowers. There are supposed to be red flowers filling this in as well, and I hadn't done any of that because I haven't picked a red yet. However, this looks so gorgeous, exactly the way it is, with those lovely pale colors, that I'm thinking I may just leave it. So take up the challenge. If you buy the kit, stitch the red flowers and prove me wrong. But I'm really tempted to leave this exactly as it is. I think that is just gorgeous for the band. So band still have a ways to go, as you can see, but I have made good progress. I'm hoping I can get to a finish on Big Blue House Pinkeep drum by the next time I see you. And then the other thing I'm going to do here is that the strawberry that hangs off the drum is part of the chart, and instead of using the same ground linen, I'm going to use Legacy Linen Wild Honey, which again will be part of the kit. And so then you could stitch just the front of the strawberry, but you'd have something tonal for the back, so it looks like a strawberry, but you don't need to do full coverage front and back. Of course you could, but I'm lazy, so that seemed really appealing to me. I don't know how I overlooked this chart before, because once I've looked more closely at it, the flowers, the grass, beautiful colors, that's, oh, just the kind of thing I absolutely love. Those darling swans and pond. So, oh, beautiful. I could not be happier with how this is turning out. I think it is absolutely gorgeous, and I think once they get a really dark, vibrant, luscious red silk in there, oh, it's gonna be beautiful. So I am absolutely loving that project, and as I mentioned, that is going to knock Brenda Gervais, my home sweet home, out of the summer Flosstube kit spot, which we had talked about a couple episodes ago, and then I had my squirrel moment with my this happy morning. However, there will still be a Katie silk conversion for this, so if you did want to stitch my home sweet home in silks, don't worry, that's still coming. I just won't kit it. I only have so much capacity, right? So there will still be a silk conversion for this. It will be shared on my Flosstube channel. And the other thing I will mention about that is that I haven't started working on the silk conversion, but I can tell you just from looking at this, there are going to be multiple color repeats on here from previous conversions that I've done. So if you've ever stitched anything that's been shared on my channel, or if you've bought any of the Flosstube kits, I can't urge you strongly enough to keep a color inventory of what you have, because you may not need to buy very many spools, if anything, to stitch my home sweet home. I do repeat colors. So these are order forms from Access Commodities. I've mentioned them on my channel here before. I will link them in the description. Obviously, everyone can't use them as order forms because Access Commodities is a wholesaler. However, they are publicly available downloads, so anyone can use these as inventories. As you can see, I do that myself to keep a record of what silks I have and don't have. So if you follow along with my conversions, it's a really useful thing to do, because you won't need to buy a completely new set of spools for this. I know the greens will definitely be repeats. They'll have been featured just off the top of my head in Seasons of the Heart Fall and Bells, definitely some more. So just note on that, because obviously silk is expensive and why not use what you have. But summer Flosstube kit, big blue house Pinkeep drum. I hope you're excited, because I'm excited. This is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stitch. Oh, linen. Sorry, so going back to my home sweet home, I had asked you about linen. The other good reason that this is not going to be a Flosstube kit is that nobody knows the linen this should be on. Well, a lot of you have opinions, but there wasn't a consensus. So there were a couple of votes for Fuller's Teazel, but otherwise it was nearly a 50-50 split between Cloister Cream and Himalayan Fog. I can understand why. They're both fabulous choices. So my advice would be get your chart, get your choice of Himalayan Fog or Cloister Cream, and get ready, because I will definitely still be sharing a Katie conversion for my home sweet home. It just won't be a kit. That's going to be big blue house Pinkeep drum. Oh, that's beautiful. Of course I would think that, because I love greens and I love stitching flowers, but oh, it really is absolutely luscious. So before we get to Brenda, I thought we'd do a little mini chart grade, because I have some haul. As I mentioned on the last episode, I ordered from Not Forgotten Farm after seeing Brenda and Laura's mini chart parade on, I think that was now 2 episodes ago. And oh, I loved what they showed, so I decided to branch out. I don't think I had any Not Forgotten Farm charts, so I'm going to show you what I picked and then the linens I would pair them with. So the first one, you'll have seen this everywhere. I have admired for this for a long time. I've just never actually bought this, and that's Thomas the Turkey. I'm not sure if I will stitch him just because Thanksgiving is not a holiday I stitch much for. I enjoy it, but at that point I'm usually really looking forward to Christmas stitching, so I'm usually in the grip of holiday stitching. However, that guy is just so winning. You could have so much fun with silks on this. If I did stitch Thomas, Cloister Cream would definitely be my linen pick. So for these, I will share what I would stitch them on. Some of these I definitely will stitch. Some I've bought just because, oh, they're great charts and sport designers. And then the next one I bought is Cedar Wax Swing. This is beautiful. This is like a multi-seasonal chart that you could put in any number of displays and would add to all of them. And then my linen pick for this would be Legacy Linen 38 count filbert, which I've got on the brain because this is the, well, it's one of the, for me, it would be the linen choice for the Needle in a Haystack Hats exclusive Sarah Render. Filbert is this really unusual color. It's purple, it's brown, it's gray, it's elusive, it's subtle, so that ticks all my boxes on color. And it's the kind of ground that would really bring something very new to a chart. So my mom stitched Peppermint and Holly on the 30 count equivalent Swiss Cocoa. And after seeing it, I really did think about restitching Peppermint and Holly myself. I'll link her episode in the description if you haven't seen it. So I would stitch Cedar Wax Swing with some luscious silks. Sorry about the glare. It's very sunny today, which is delightful, but not so good for the charts here. On the fabulous Filbert. Same linen pick for Holly. I would definitely switch up the colors here. I think maybe more grays and silvers. Tone down that red a little bit. Some good greens. But that would be beautiful, and you know how much I love a Christmas stitch. Just continuing on the filbert train, because this is going to be the next linen you see me using non-stop. This is Basket of Cheer. And oh, some really vibrant reds, greens. This I'm definitely doing, and probably pretty soon. Maybe Christmas in July. And then my last pick from Not Forgotten Farm was Patriot Shield. And that would definitely be Cloister Cream. Gorgeous. Absolutely love it. So I really enjoyed perusing Not Forgotten Farm's offerings. They have a lot of great charts. It was hard to pick. As you can see, I picked Self-Row, but there were even more that I could have bought. However, I have so many things to stitch. I did try and contain myself at least a little. But with that, I am going to bring out Britomart. The Britomart casket. Okay guys, true confessions. I'm a drama queen and I am a sucker for a big reveal because, as you can see, I don't have an update on my Britomart casket. I have a complete final casket finish. The Britomart casket is now fully finished. It's got its trim, it's got its hardware. I finished the stitching on the back panel on April 1st, and then I spent several days really taking my time with the gluing, with the finishing, with the trim. Let everything dry for a full period of 24 hours and then mounted the hinges on April 6th, which is the official finish date for the Britomart casket. So after the last episode, oh, I could see the finish line and I stitched like an absolute maniac to get there. But, ooh, that's gonna be a little hard to show. Let me pause this and adjust the camera angle and we'll take a good look at this finish. Okay, that is a little better. I know you want to see the stitching here, not me. That's the real attraction. So we'll start with the back because that's the panel I've been keeping you up to date on most recently, but I will show you all of the panels in looking at the finish of the Britomart casket. I can't even believe that I'm saying that. It's pretty nutty. So One thing you might notice is that I did in fact change the feathers on our heroine. So as I was reviewing the last floss tube, writing the notes, the camera panned to the pink raccoon tails. Oh, and I hated them even more on video than I did in life. I could not stand it. I paused the video right there and I went straight to my stand to cut them out, which was a terrible idea. I had very good reasons for not wanting to touch it again. And I ended up, really shooting myself in the foot there. As you can see, I did ultimately save the situation, but it got really hairy because you should never cut things out when you're stressed or you're angry. It leads to carelessness, and that's what happened here. So I took my finest tip scissors. These are Monsieur Rouleau's, which I love for, just move that, for their extremely fine, sharp points, which are absolutely essential when you're cutting out work like this. I'm very comfortable using these. They've been an essential part of my toolbox for years, and they're my go-to if I have detailed cutout work to do. However, like I said, I got sloppy and the tips went straight through the silk satin ground twice. Oh my God. In 10 years, I have never cut through the ground fabric once, and then I managed to do it twice in the space of 5 minutes. It was insane. And honestly, since I hadn't pulled anything out at that point, just cut, the smart thing would have been apply some glue from the back, stabilize it, leave it, and not dig yourself a deeper hole. However, I'm an idiot, so that was not what I did. I pulled out the stitching and then I patched the slashes from the back with acid-free tissue paper, so anything thicker would have shown through the fabric when I went to glue this, so it had to be as fine as possible. That's tissue paper. I darned it into place with fine silk, and then I had to think about what kind of low stress technique would cover what I had done. So the bottom slash right here, I covered by raising Brenda Mart's hair. So I just couched some more gold thread over the bottom slash. That was low stress. However, the, I guess, more intense stitch I had been using for the feathers, as you saw on the last episode, would have stressed the fabric out even more than it could take had it not been cut. So I had to think of something else, and for that I went for what are essentially overlapping lazy daisy stitches arranged like plumes. So this is a style that's very similar to the Cavalier 17th century embroideries that I showed you on the last episode, where you have just these kind of like floppy plumes encircling the top of the helmet, as opposed to the swoops that are on the lid, which we will take a look at. And that ended up, I think, being a much better solution. It's still not perfect, however, you can't see where it got through the ground, and they're not pink raccoon tails, so I'm gonna chalk that up as a win. And then the other thing that's new on this panel is the figure of Fear, who is worked in 3 beautifully shaded blues in Soie de Paris. As you can see, I almost went through the middle one there. These two are in the same color family. This one I had to add. It's got more of a gray content. Sorry, the camera just there. I was really having trouble focusing. So in Paris, because the range is more limited, sometimes you have to kind of drop in something that's not in the same family. And in those instances, something that has a lot of gray in it will just blend better with something that's not a natural shade friend. So I think that actually did turn out very well on the figure of Fear here, which has 3 blues shaded in different ways. So here on this side, I've done banded shading, which is very, very traditional on 17th century embroideries, and then elsewhere, so on the top, on the sleeves, I have done blended long and short stitch, which would be more modern. In the figure of fear, I did want to capture some of the elaborate folds and drapes that I had drawn in on so many of my original figures that hadn't actually stitched. So as you can see, I've got all of these details drawn in that are meant to indicate folds and drapes, and I had largely not done that. So I did want to get the full level of detail in here on fear. And then I worked his dagger just in silver passing thread that's been couched on. And then the hair is just oval in split stitch. So that's the back. I was able to put 2023 as the date on this, which I almost still, oh my gosh, can't quite believe. So that was the stitching, which was finished on April 1st. After the last episode, I could just smell a finish. So I pushed really, really hard and stitched like a maniac to get this done because, oh, I knew it was right there waiting for me. And this casket has had so many starts and stops that I didn't want to leave an opening for anything else to happen and throw me off course. So this is the back, which, as we've discussed before, depicts a mask of Cupid here in the center, and then Brenda staging a rescue of her companion and BFF, Amoret, who has been enchanted, thus her bleeding heart in the bowl. So that's the back. Love it. And then we'll just quickly take a look at the other sides. So one thing I did have to correct while I was doing the finishing on this is that on the side panels in particular, I'm not exactly sure how this happened. I think probably insufficient glue and insufficient weight right here at the sides. I was having the glued finish curling up at the side. It was not lying flat. I had tried to glue that down after the fact and found that it did not work at all, so I had to reactivate the glue. I use Yes Paste for gluing. As you'll know if you've watched Simple Harmony tutorials, I use that for the Simple Harmony box as well as for my casket finishing. And Yes Paste is a water-based glue, which also means it's water soluble. So you can reactivate a dry water-based glue with the application of water. So as horrifying as it sounds, I put on my big girl pants, I got out a very fine paintbrush, some water, and then I just painted the back of the curl doublet, not the fabric front, but the paper back, and just lightly brushed over it with just a very lightly damp brush until the glue was reactivated and pliable, at which point additional glue could be applied with a toothpick and it could be stuck down, weighted, and left to dry, which I had to do on 3 different edges. I'm gonna have to look at my process going forward on the short sides to see where I was going wrong with that, because I was able to correct it. As you can see, these corners are now smooth. They're meeting up just fine. But it's really better not to have to do that in the first place. It is a useful lesson in finishing, though. Most things that you do, you can find some kind of solution for. You just have to put your thinking cap on and be brave enough to try. So then, this side, just as a review for the story, for those of you who might be new, this is quite an episode to be a first timer on my channel for. I do have to say, casket finish is not something you see every day. This is only my second. And this depicts Brenda Mart, our heroine of Edmund Spenser's The Fairy Queen, being, so at this point she's disguised as a male knight. They stop at a castle and the amorous lady of the castle falls for what she thinks is the handsome young man staying with her and sneaks into what she believes is his chamber for a midnight assignation. The very angry, very female Brenda Mart does not find that funny, and she attacks hostess, soldiers run in. There's confrontation. The other side is the beginning of our story. So the casket overall depicts Britomart progression as the heroine, and this depicts the very beginning of her story, which is when as a princess of Britain, so this is the only panel where she's not a knight, she looks into a magic mirror and she sees her destiny, her true love, Article, and she decides to become a knight, travel to Fairyland, and go and seek him. So as I've discussed before on this panel, I used mica laid over embroidery I did underneath it to give a reflective surface that would make this appear more like a mirror and less like just a stitched floating thing that she's looking at. So this is the very beginning of, oh sorry, pulling this off the table. This is the beginning of Britomart's journey. And then the front, which is worked in full high relief stump work, all padded, different detached pieces of needle lace, depicts a pivotal point in Britomart's journey when, having won a tournament, she takes off her helmet and reveals herself as female. This is also the only panel in which she's got correct weaponry. Britomart is known in the book as the Knight of the Ebony Spear before she reveals her true identity, and here she does have her ebony spear, which I've worked with needle lace over a dowel and again given a shaped and gilded tip. Again, all high relief stump work. This panel has the most texture to it. Oh, sorry, I haven't glued my feet in until I do the panel for the bottom. Painted panel, not stitched. I'm not that crazy, but I do want to leave some record of myself as the maker. So I am going to paint something for the bottom and attach that. We'll look at that once I've done it. It hasn't happened yet. And then the last panel is the lid. So this depicts Britomart's decisive battle with her biggest foe, the Amazonian warrior queen Radegund. And Radegund has captured Britomart's true love, Article. This is during his book, book 5, so this is the only panel in which we're going outside Britomart's own story in book 3. And then Britomart comes to the rescue, defeats Radegund after a decisive battle, and frees Article and the other captured knights. So that is the Britomart casket. Let's see if we can just adjust this. Okay, so finish. I can't believe it. It is kind of an anticlimax for a project that has been about 3 years of actual stitching. As we've discussed previously, I did do the designs for this all the way back in 2015. I put 2016 on them because I thought this was only going to take me a year to stitch. Ha ha ha. But it's very strange to put down the screwdriver, so installing the hinges on the back was the last thing I did here, and just be done. It's an anticlimax, honestly. Yes and no, because you've also got this crazy finish just hanging out in your house, but it does kind of feel like there should be more. There should be a chorus, there should be people breaking out into song and applause and standing ovations, having completed a project of this magnitude. However, there is just your finish, and the screwdriver that you now have to put away. It's a weird feeling. I still haven't quite processed actually being done with a project that has consumed so much of my life for so long. But enough about the various, philosophical whatever. Let's talk giveaways, which are actually more interesting. So, from the last episode, the giveaway was Tulip Festival, chart by Brenda Gervais, and the Winner for that is Melanie Davis. Melanie, I have commented on your comment. Please send me your mailing address and I will get this out to you. And then to celebrate 5,000 subscribers, I also have 5 new giveaways. So they're all the same, and the keyword for this will be surprise. I really enjoyed reading all of your comments about spring in the garden, your favorite flowers. So I decided that instead of repeating one of my obvious words like red or silks or sparkle or whatever, we would go with surprise as the keyword and consider that an open prompt. I look forward to being surprised by all of the things that you guys have to say in the comments. So there will be 5 winners for these, and this is a pack of 3 threads that I have been enjoying and that you've seen here on my channel. So this is Goblin's 575, which I have been using on Modern Folk Embroidery's Home Sweet Home. And then in the middle we have Bijou. This is Ruby, which I used on a small ornament. It is spectacularly sparkly. 5 of you will get to find that out in person. Camera really doesn't do it justice. And then here we have Goblin's 779, which is the red I myself used for my Simple Harmony box. So 3 threads that I have really enjoyed working with that I hope you will enjoy as my gift to you. Thank you all so much for watching, whether this is your first time or if you've been with me for a long time. Hopefully we'll have a mix of viewers old and new to thank those of you who have stuck around all this time and welcome those of you who are new. So 5 winners, keyword surprise. Use it in the comments to be entered in the giveaway. And then I will announce the 5 winners for the 5,000 subscriber giveaway on the next episode. The last thing I have for today is that, as with the side panel on Brenda Mart, I did keep step-by-step progress photos of the back. I have clipped those together into a video, which I'm going to insert right at the end of this episode. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. And you can see stitch by stitch how this panel all came together. I'm also working on a larger timeline video so you can see the full journey of this casket, as some of it did occur before I started my Flosstube. And so I've been pulling photos, so I only have full step-by-step for the back and one of the sides, but I do have extensive progress photos for all of the different photos as well as a timeline. And I'm putting that together into a more complete video to show how a casket comes together after many fits, starts, stops, time, spent in timeout. And then that will, if you're interested, give you a window into the complete working of a casket, whether you're interested in doing one for yourself or not. And then I'll post that as a standalone extra. Once I'm finished with it, I'm still pulling all of the materials together. So I hope that's of interest, if you want to watch it. It's certainly been interesting to me to revisit twists and turns on this journey. So this was finished almost 3 years to the date after my first casket finish. Of course, I did do other things during that time, the Simple Harmony box, my beaded basket, and of course so many other pieces that you've seen here on my Flosstube. But that's the general timeline we're looking at, although the designs, as I mentioned, do date from many years ago. So stay tuned if you'd like to see the step-by-step video of the back coming together. And then that brings me to the end of this episode. I hope you've enjoyed seeing my really big finish. I still actually can't believe that I'm saying that. It seems nutty for this just to be done. It's consumed so much of my life and attention for 3 years. But for next time, I am hoping to have some more progress on my whips, including this happy morning, hopefully something more interesting than the grass, and then possibly even a finish on Stacy Nash, Big Blue House Pinkeep drum. Oh, I love the colors on that. I hope you guys love it too, because I really just can't say enough about how gorgeous that is. And then I will also have the winners of the 5,000 subscriber giveaways. So make sure to tune in for that in 2 weeks' time. I'll see you then, and until then, happy stitching.